in this course of learning how to program website at advanced level. As we have discussed, it's not going to be a simple journey, but we all know nothing good comes simply. So since we have decided to start it, let's stick around and be among the people who will be here until the last day. And I believe if we be around until the last day, which is 3 months, you'll have learned something that at least you didn't know at this moment. So what we're going to learn in this advanced web programming, I can break it. We're going to get started by learning PHP object-oriented programming. After PHP object-oriented programming, we'll be introduced to PHP Composer, and then after PHP Composer, we'll go ahead and get introduced to the most popular PHP framework, and that is Coordinator. We will explore Coordinator and exploit it. We will try to learn as much as we can in Coordinator, and we see how we can efficiently create a scalable web application using Coordinator. And I believe if you didn't know Coordinator, when you will start learning Coordinator, you will really appreciate. Many people always escape Coordinator because at the beginning it seems to be complicated. But if you have someone who will help you to break it down for you, you'll see it's not even complicated, but it will really help you to learn a lot of things. So people, not Coordinator, sorry. I say Laravel, not Coordinator. Sorry, I meant Laravel. We're going to learn Laravel, and then I'll go deep in it, and we see how we can use it in real-world applications. And then, so many people always go for Coordinator in their beginning, because Coordinator is very simple to get started with. But Laravel is a little bit hard, because it involves writing commands of PHP Composer. So when people they find it hard, they decide to go for Coordinator. But the truth is, Laravel is the most popular and it's the most powerful. If you didn't know Laravel, by the time we finish this course, you really know you will not regret for the time that you invested in. So we'll go into Laravel and exploit it, and then after learning Laravel, I will go to another Laravel library which is really powerful. It's called Laravel Admin. So Laravel Admin, it will help us to create web application in very fast way, and I cannot explain it much until you reach it. And when you reach it, you really know that you can do great things with simplicity using that Laravel Admin. So that's what we're going to cover, and then after we'll go ahead and learn templates, how we can use existing Bootstrap templates to create e-commerce websites, coding them to create management systems, to create dashboards using Laravel and with existing templates. So in simple terms, in this course, I'm going to help you to learn how you can create a real world web application with simplicity, because I already have that experience. So if I give you a hand, I believe it will be simpler for you to do what? To adopt and be able to use these technologies. So with that much said, that is just an introduction. So let's go ahead into your business and get introduced to PHP object-oriented programming. So as your advanced students, so I'll assume that I'll not treat you like babies of basics. We are going to follow WordPress. We are going to follow W3 Schools syllabus, PHP OP. So PHP OP, and when you search it and then come here, PHP OP for W3 Schools. So we are just going to help you to follow the syllabus, and if you need to learn more, you can come and find the notes, though we'll also prepare for you the notes that we'll be sharing with you. So with that much said, let's get started. So what is PHP OP? Of course, it stands for PHP Object-Oriented Programming. from PHP 5 and above, PHP started developing object-oriented programming, and procedural programming is about like writing just functions and variables. But in PHP object-oriented programming, okay, I'll not read these notes because I'm going to concentrate much more on practicals. But if you want to learn more, you will come here. I'm just going to be using this to follow it as well as a syllabus. But if you want to learn deep and understand what we talked about, just come W3 Schools or OP, and then W3 Schools PHP, then OP. Then you'll understand and learn more about what? About object-oriented programming. So I was saying that object-oriented programming will help us to organize our code. Though if you've never wrote any class in PHP, it meant that you've been doing PHP structure programming. So with classes, with PHP object-oriented programming, we'll be able to predefine our models. And once you define a model, the remaining, the object that you create from that model or from that class, it will follow the rules that you have predefined in the model. So that is a simple introduction to what? PHP object-oriented programming. So we're going to look at what is meant by a class. As you can see here, there's a class. So a class is a frame of is a frame of something of a data type that you want an object of that class to follow. What do I mean? We have different data types that we support in PHP. For example, you know the data type that we support. We know a string. When you talk about string, you know what is meant by a string. You know a string. We have integers. We have what? Booleans. We have doubles and floats. Those are the data types. But a string is just something that is going to store for you a string, just a group of characters, right? A string will store a group of characters. An integer variable will store only a single integer, like this, just one number. Then a boolean will store true or false. But you come to scenarios when you want to define your own variable to make your own rules. For example, you're going to create maybe a student management system. So you will have these variables like a student. So a student is going to be, am I recording? Yeah. Yeah. So a student is not going to be just a single string. A student will have other properties. Like when you talk about student, it means that you need to record the name of that student, his ID, his maybe his nationality, his age. So you find that it is more than a string. When you talk about a student, it becomes something more than a string. It becomes something more than an integer. It becomes something more than a boolean or more than a float. But you need to define this thing as one variable. But you realize that PHP has only strings and what and integers, just the variables that we listed. So we realize that you need to give your own rules to define a certain variable that you want to create. So the rules, those rules that make those variables, to put them together and define them in a certain thing is what we call a class. So you create a class as a structure that is going to hold the data of your own choice. We may say, I'm going to create a student management system and I'll be having students. So you define your own rules. A student will have a name. A student will have this. A student will have X. So you define your own rules. So those rules that you define, it is going to be just one variable, and those that you define, grouping them into a single variable is what we'll call a class. Yeah. So things that is what we call a class. Now, these students, you will now create for them instances. So the instance of a student, so you've created a class called student. Now you're going to start saving student. You have student called Mohindo, you have student called Mbarak, you have another student called Hadi. So you have students. Now you're going to record this into the system. So those students that will be recording into the system, they are the ones that will be calling what? Objects. That is one scenario. Another scenario, you may be having a shop and want to create maybe a shop, but you find that you have something called a product. A product cannot be just a string, because a product will have a title, a product will have a price, a product will have a supplier, a product will have a picture, a product will have the details about it. So you find there are around 5 things that you want to attach on only one thing called product. So defining all those rules and put them together, you will need to create something called a class. So a class is just a variable that is made by your own rules. So when you create a class of a product, it means that you can put there now, in that class of product, you can put there the name, you can put the price, you can put many things in that part, in that particular class. So when you start creating these products, like adding name, now you're adding a product called soap, you add a product called sugar, you add a product called milk, you add a product called salt. So those rules that you define, those products that you're adding there in that class, they are the one that we call objects. As you can see here from W3 schools, we have a class called fruit, and then objects of fruits. We can have an apple, we can have a banana, we can have a mango. And we have another example of a class called a car. And under this car, we can have a Volvo, we can have Audi, Toyota, Suzuki, and the rest. So it means that these will follow the rules that are defined under this group. Okay? So that is how we can relate between a class and an object. And I believe, even though this is new concept to you, I hope you can now relate. So let's go into the real programming and we see how we can do this. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to come to my desktop and create a new folder here. I'm going to call it PHP. Yeah, it is the folder. PHP. I hope you also don't save your things on desktop. I'm just putting them on desktop because I need to put them in XAMPP. Yeah, I will not run them here from here. So let's put in what? In XAMPP. So at this point, I will hope you already know how to install XAMPP. You already know how to run a PHP file. If you cannot install XAMPP, you don't know what is meant by XAMPP. You don't know what is meant by PHP file. You cannot run a PHP file. Then I doubt it might not be your class. Maybe you may go for basics. But at this level, I'll assume that you know what is meant by WAMP or MAMP or XAMPP. I will assume that you know what is meant by MySQL. I will assume you know what is meant by SQL. So those small things, Bootstrap, you know those ones. But if you don't know what I'm talking about, when you talk about XAMPP, you don't know XAMPP, then you may go for another class, okay? But this is for people who already know that. So I'm going to launch my XAMPP. I hope everyone here can install XAMPP. But still, if you get problem in installing XAMPP, still you can come to us. You can come to me, I can help you. So I'm going to launch my XAMPP, and then I create a workplace where I'm going to demonstrate these PHP classes and the rest. So to do that, I'll simply come to my XAMPP is here, and then I'll come to my htdocs file folder. When I talk about htdocs folder, I believe most of you know. So if you don't know and you forget, still no problem. You can come, I can remind you. If you believe you have seen htdocs, and if you believe you know XAMPP, but you forgot because you were not practicing, still we can arrange and I can help you. But if you don't know those things, then you better go for another class. If you completely don't know them, then you better subscribe for a beginner class. So let me open my htdocs folder. It is here. I'm using Mac, and if you're using Windows, we find there's some slight difference, but it's not big difference. This is my htdocs folder, a place where I can save my my files of PHP. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to create a new folder, right click, and come and say new folder, and I'm going to put there PHP Advanced. Okay, so there we are. So this is my folder of PHP Advanced. So I'm going to open it in what? In Sublime Text. No, you're not going to use Sublime Text. For some reasons, Sublime Text is for basics. Someone used to tell me that I did not accept until I realized. So if you were used for Sublime Text, then it's the time you switch. We're going to switch to what? To VS Code, Visual Studio Code. But if you're that person of Sublime Text, then you're going to make a hard decision to switch for VS Code, and trust me, you will not regret for the decision you have made to switch to VS Code as your code text editor. So I'm going to launch my VS Code. I'm going to open a new instance. You can see there's a lot of source code there, and I can close this one. It's one of the projects that I'm working on. So I'm going to open the folder that I've just created, right? So I'll come to File, add File, click Open Folder, and then I'll go to Desktop. I have my shortcut there for htdocs, which is here. htdocs is here, and then when I click on it, it will take me straight to my htdocs folder. Then I'll open it. Okay, so that is our htdocs folder, and that is our folder of advanced PHP. So I'm going to put here just a file that introduces just that to make sure that I can run a PHP file, right? So I'm going to put here a new file, one_test.php. So I can open here my PHP tag, and I can say echo this is a simple test. Semicolon, save. So let's run it. So to run it, you have to start your XAMPP, whatever software you're using. I'm using MAMP for Mac. So I've already started it. What I'm going to do, I'm just going to go to the browser, and let me open my browser here. This is the browser. Open new tab here. I'm going to go to localhost stroke PHP advanced, and then this is our first file, one_test.php. If I run it, you can see this is a simple test. So my server works properly. But if you cannot do this still, but you're sure you once did it, just come to my inbox. I'll help you up to this level. But if you cannot reach this level with my help, then you better go for another class. But if you did it like long ago and you forgot, still feel free to come to my inbox, and I will help you up to this level. So that is a test to show that shows that shows that we can run a PHP file. So let's come here and see how we're going to get started with PHP object-oriented programming. We're going to create our first class, and this is how we create a class. We just simply mention the class, the word, how do you call them? This word. A word class, there's a word, keyword, call them keywords. A keyword class, and then you give the name of your class, and then you open your curly brackets and close them. So between there, you'll put the code that defines your class. So let's go ahead and create our first class, okay? And it's going to be called, let's find an ID from there. So I'm going to create here a new file. I'm going to call it class.php. Okay, so here I'm going to open my tag of PHP. One more thing, if you want to get suggestions, just come here to extensions, extension, and write PHP. So there you'll be able to find some extensions that can help you to get suggestions of PHP. These are the few ones that I installed. There's PHP Debug. This one will help you. There is this one, PHP Interface. This is very, very important. It is having a blue tick, you can see here. And this one, PHP Extension Pack. So these three, come and install this one. They will really help you to write very fast PHP codes. Okay, this PHP Interface is really important. As you can see, it is having 5 million downloads, and this one's having 6 million, and this one's having 2 million. So if you install these three, you'll be good to go. Okay, so I'll come back to file. Okay, so here I'm going to create my first class. So you have to make sure that you open the PHP tag. Closing the PHP tag is not a big deal. If you didn't know that, you should know it. Like if you're going to write the whole file in PHP, then closing the PHP tag is not a big deal. So let's go ahead and create our first class. So to create a class, we say that you just write the word class, keyword class, and after writing that keyword class, you go ahead and define it. Okay, So to define a class, you simply write the class name. So we say that we're going to define a class. So which class should we define? Let's define a class called product. Okay. So we're going to define a class called product, and then you open curly bracket and close them and save. Am I getting warning? Did I miss something? Let me check. That's how it is made. I don't know why it's warning. The expected class product expected. I think okay. We'll see if it fails to run. So let's go ahead and run. So this is just defining a class. So if I want to class to run it, so just simply come here and change the naming here. So I'm going to change this one to what? To underscore class.php. If I run it, nothing will display. Nothing will display. Why? Because I've not created an instance of this class. So once you define a class, then you have to give it properties, and these properties are the properties that you give for the class. They are the rules that will be defining that you need the objects for this class should do what? Should follow. So how do you define properties? Someone is joining. Let me add this one. Okay. So how do you define the properties of what? Of a class? This is how you define them. So you define a property of a class by simply adding the word public. The word public and private and protected. We'll come to understand it later. But just know, for now, when you want to define your properties of a class, just put the word public. But we'll explain what they mean. So put public and then give a class name, okay? I mean a property name. Put public and then a property name. So we have what we call methods. So what is a method? A method is a function inside a class. We'll elaborate what is meant by method later. But no, a function inside a class, it's called a what? A method. And we'll explain why we need methods of classes. So this is how we define what? That's how we define method. So let's go ahead and define. Let us go ahead and put properties of our classes. So I've created a class called what? Called the product. Let me zoom so you can see clearly. So this is a class called product. Let's go ahead and give it a property. So the first property to define is just simply add the word public. You see the advantage of putting the extensions. They help you to suggest some frequently used keywords. So I write public, and then I'll go ahead and give this public what? A name. And give this property name by putting $sign and put maybe a name. So our product will have name. What else can a product have? A product can have price. And what else can a product have? A product can have what? Can have can it have what? What can it have? It can have description. Description. Okay. So by doing this, it means that you have defined a class called product and it is having this information. Okay. So once you define it, still even if you come and refresh here, you will not see anything. Why? Because you've not created an instance of this what? Of this class. Of this class. So how do you create an instance of the class? That's what we call object. So create an instance of a class. This is separated. So you see here, we defined the class. After defining it, we went ahead and created a new instance. And this is how it is created. You just simply give an instance a name, and then you say new, and then you define that class like this. You call the class like that. So I mean that class will have those properties. So let's go ahead and create our first instance of what? Of a product. So to create our first instance, we'll just simply come here on bottom and create our first instance. So let's create our first instance. We just simply say $sign and give this product a name. So maybe it is banana. And this banana we can say equals to new, and then we say new what? New product. Okay, product. So by doing like this, it means that this banana is going to be an object of this product. We can call it sugar. Let's define another property. Shortcut, if you want to do the same thing that you're going to have some slight change, you'd better duplicate this line. Okay, so to duplicate the line, you press Ctrl and Shift and hold them, and then you press arrow down, then it will duplicate the line for you. So you see, I can duplicate the line for myself with simplicity, other than again coming and write something that I could have duplicated. So I'll duplicate it. If you cannot duplicate it, then you find out how to duplicate. In fact, this program, you should know that most of things you'll have to find out by yourself. Once you have an idea, now you have an idea that you can duplicate something, but you cannot do it, you fail to do it, then what is your task? Your task is to find out. Search on Google, how can I duplicate from VS Code? If you're using Sublime Text, how can I duplicate a line using Sublime Text? So once you have an idea, if you can't do it, then start by searching, and then once you learn it, then you learn it forever. So I duplicate here. I have another product called what? Salt. Okay. So once I have those two products, I can now, it means that this product, once I define a product, it means that this product have all these properties. Okay. So when I just say sugar, when I call sugar, it means a sugar will have name, price, and description. When I call salt, it will have name, price, and description. But if we didn't have the knowledge of class, let us say we didn't have the knowledge of class, how could you do that? It means that you could create an array, and you know array is not something that you can define by name, so you have to put those zeros to define what a field. But with class, it means that you can do what? You can just define your rules, and then the remaining, use them. So it means that once I call sugar, sugar will have all the properties of what? Of a product. So if we come here, and now how do we access, the question is now how do we access those properties? So to access the properties of a certain object of a class, we access them by using the arrow. The arrow, we call it arrow, I don't know how you can call it. So I'm going to, for example, I've defined the property, I've defined sugar, but this sugar, we have not given it name, we have not given it price, we have not given it what? Description. So to do that, let's go ahead and give the sugar object. So this is an object, so I have to call an object. This is an object, this is a class. The instance of a class is called an object. Let me put here, with object. So let's go ahead and give this object what? A value, a property of name and value. So to do that, so to access the name here, just put here the hyphen and the greater than sign and give it name. So you can see they're helping me to suggest. Can you see? So it automatically knows that this is an object of a product, and a product has something called name. But if I come and say maybe school, okay, so it will not give me correct suggestion. So I can give it name, so I press enter, I come and define it, and maybe I can call it sugar, and then I go ahead and duplicate this one, give it price, it is what, maybe 1,200, and then I give it a description, simple sugar details. So if I come and refresh, still I'll not see anything. Why? Because I've not printed anything, but you're sure that you don't have an error. So let's go ahead and see how we can display these variables. So to display them is simple. Just simply say print and then say maybe product name. Then to access it, put of course those curly brackets, and between these curly brackets you put $, sugar variable, and then access it the property, for example name. So you see name, put here some BR, save. So if you do like that, you will be able to see, can you see name sugar, and it has more properties. So duplicate this one here, name sugar, price, price, just put price here, okay, price, and then maybe description, details. Save, come and refresh. You can see it's beautiful. What is the beauty? The beauty is we are able to access all these things under one variable. Under sugar, but a sugar has a name, a sugar has price, a sugar has description. But assume that you didn't have knowledge of classes. What does it mean? You could create these variables separately. You could create a variable of sugar name separately, sugar price separately, sugar description separately. But with the knowledge and ability of having object-oriented programming, you have ability to put all these things under a single variable. And how do you do that? Define a class, create its object, and then initialize its properties, and you'll be able to access all the properties in one place or in one variable. So it means that also, if we define, just one more minute, just one more example, if we define also salt, I just want you to understand it properly. So I can just, okay, so since we know, we already have something like this, the salt is like sugar, so I just simply duplicate. So you select that and duplicate. So you're a programmer, really using things writing things in a faster way, or doing things in a faster way is really key. Is a key. If you write things slowly and you're a programmer, then you lose a lot of gigs and you will disappoint your clients. So these tricks and tactics, they're really important, and they come through practice. And once you practice, then you get that experience. Otherwise, if you just watch and don't practice, then it will be nothing still. So you see, if I want to do the same thing, I just duplicate here. Just press highlight, duplicate. You see, I have two instances, sugar. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to replace this one with salt. Double click, replace. Just double click, replace, double click, replace, double click, replace. Other than again going to type something from scratch. So I can just simply put here salt and give it price, maybe 1,000, and give it simple salt details. Okay, so let me put here some HR echo HR, and then I'm going to duplicate the same thing here. So here I'm going to put now just I'm going to put just here salt, because they are same things, salt. So come and refresh. We have those two beautiful things. Sugar, its price, we have salt, but all of these are just accessed through two variables. But if you didn't know object-oriented programming, it means that you could have defined 6 different variables. I hope now you're trying to get the point. I never did not got the whole point why I need OOP, but I hope you're trying to get the point why I need object-oriented programming. You'll really understand it when you proceed. Right now it can sound like a bit confusing, but when you practice and try to really see its advantage. But now you imagine this is just a variable with it's a class with 3 variables. But assume that you had something that is going to store 20 fields about a particular thing. So what does it mean? To create 2 variables, you could create 40 different variables. So with structured programming, really you'll be mediocre. That's what I can say. Though it will work, but it's not the best way of working things. So you need object-oriented programming to keep your things to help you do things faster and to do things in a smarter way. So far, I would allow any one of you to ask a question if there is any question so far, and then if there is no, you can proceed. Is there any question, members? I'm running 25 minutes. I need any question in case there is any question left. I'm confused here. If there is no question, still I can need someone to say that no question, then we proceed. Any question? Can someone respond? Say no question. Juliet. Juliet, are you there? You can unmute and say something if you're there. Juliet? I hope you're not following. I don't think you're following. Okay. Abakar Yusuf, are you there? Abakar, unmute and say and talk. Oh, you just joined and left. Abakar, are you there?
Yes, sir, I'm there.
How are you, Mr. Abakar?
I'm there, sir.
Are you getting classes? And that's how we define properties of a class. So we proceed to another thing. So you can come here on W3 Schools and read more about classes and properties. So we go to what is called, what is meant by constructor. Before we proceed to constructors, let us first look at methods. So what is meant by a method? A method is a function, and at this point you should be understanding what is meant by a function. So a method is a function that is inside a class. I repeat, a method is a function that is inside a class. Sometimes we may need to organize our functions according to classes. For example, a student, if members, put your attendance in the chat. Just put your name in the chat. Later I will give you IDs, but put your attendance in the chat. Just write your name there. That's enough. So I'm saying an object. Sorry, I'm saying a method is a function inside a class. Okay, Juliet. Okay, put your name in the chat to mark you as attended. So I'm saying that a method is a function inside a class. So some classes we need to compute some things, but we have just dealt with variables. Assume that you're having students and you want to write something that can generate the position of a student. So it means that you need to write a method. Assume that you have a student and you want to write something that will generate the percentage of a student. It means that you need to write a what? You need to write a method. Assume that we have these products and want to offer discounts, but these discounts will be calculated. So you need to do some logic. So it means that you also need a what? A method, because you need to perform some logic. A property will just store something, but a method will perform a logic about something. So for example, we have a product and you want to be calculating the percentage of a discount. Maybe you want to be offering discount. So you mean that you have to write a function that can calculate that what? That discount. Now that function inside the method is what we call, inside the class is what we call a method. So we're going to create our first method that is going to calculate discount. It can be a method can be anything. It can calculate discount, can calculate maybe anything that is about this product. Maybe you want to turn the name of a product in small letters. You want to do just anything that requires logic about a certain class. We write it in something called a function, and the function inside the class, we call it what? A method. I've given you an example. We want to calculate discount, and you know discount is calculated by just a certain percentage according to a price of a product. So it means that products can have different prices, and hence their discount will fluctuate, will change according to the price of a product. So what does it mean? It means that we need to write logic. We need to write logic that will be calculating this discount. So let's go ahead and write that method. So as you can see, a method will be inside a class. So let's go ahead and put here a method here inside this class, and give a method that is going to do what? To define that we're going to calculate the discount. So if you come here, come to methods, you'll see how methods are defined. Can you see? You just need to write function and then give the name of the method, and then you do some calculation. Okay, so let's go ahead and calculate and create a function that will calculate the method, the discount. So just simply start with public and then put the name of the function. It's going to be called discount, and then put bracket and then go like this. So this discount, sorry, you must write that function, sorry. Okay, so it is a public function discount. Okay, so this is the name of this method, and then open bracket, close them, open curly bracket, and put them. So in this, between these brackets is where we're going to put the logic that is going to calculate a discount. Assume that we want to be giving discount of 20% on what? On every product. So we can simply define it here as a static thing. Maybe you can say this count rate. Okay, this count maybe percentage, maybe to be 20%. Okay, I can say discount rate, private discount rate, or I can call it anything. Okay, actually let's calculate it manually. So we want to calculate 20% of every product and give it a discount. So what we do there, we just simply say discount. I can say disc equals 20% is going to be 20 divided by 100 times the times the price of what, of the product. Okay, times the price of the product. So let's go ahead and multiply the price of the product. But we know here the price of the product is going to be dynamic, so we have to define it according to this. Okay, so if you want to access a variable, a property here, if you want to access this property here within this class, you simply write the $sign and write the word this, and then put this, and then give it a name. So it means, price. Okay, so it means the discount will be calculated by 20 divided by 100 times any price of this particular product. Then you have to return this discount. So you just simply say return discount. So when you call this method, it will just simply get the price of this particular product and multiply it by 120 divided by 100. So this is logic. Okay, this is logic. So when you want to write logic, you have to put it inside a what? Inside a function. And this is just a simple logic, but sometimes we may need to perform a very big logic. You want to see how many products of this kind are on database. So you have to write a method to achieve that. Okay, so let us go ahead and do what? And return this and use this method. So to access the method is also the same way. So let us go ahead and calculate this and do it and get here the discount. So when you're presenting here, when you're presenting the price, after the price, just put the word discount, discount. So how did this access discount? We just simply put that discount. But remember, this discount is a what? It's a function. You see, it's a function. So we'll not call it like a what? Like a property. We have to add there the brackets. Sorry, we have to add there the brackets like this. So it's going to be called like this. I hope you're getting. These are properties, static things. But this is a what? It's a function. So it will be called in that way. So when you call this function, it will get the price of this particular sugar that we defined here and calculate it in this way. So let us do that and also come and do the same thing here on salt and get its discount. So let's come and refresh here. You can see. Is that a discount really? Yeah, this is 12,000. 12,000. So the 12,000 will give you a discount of 2,400. So discount is going to be of 1,000 is going to be 2,000. So you can see we can write a code one time and we use it many times by just simply calling it. So you can see we write just this function only one time and we're just calling it, and it's calculating for each product. So let us go ahead and write another method for you to get the thing properly. I write another method that is going to calculate the net price. Okay, this is the price, this is the discount. Now let us go ahead and calculate the net price. So to calculate the net price, let's write that method also. So what I want to show you here right now, that a method can call another method. So to do that, we just simply put public. What are we doing right now? We are writing a method that is going to calculate the net price. So you'll see here, we'll define only the price, and about the net price and discount, the methods will do that logic for us. So public function, and then we give the method a name, net price, and then put bracket. So we already have discount, right? So how can you get net price? So you can simply say get net price. So here comes your small mathematics. So net price is calculated by the original price, which we can get through this price. When I say this, I mean a particular property here, a particular property of this particular object. So I say this price, so I'm pointing here, minus discount. So I'm going to call a method inside another method. So net price is calculated by the original price minus discount. So it will be minus this discount. So can you see? So when we call this method, it will do the logic of calculating the what? The net price. So make sure that you return the net price. Return net price. Members, do you have any question there? Is there any Chinese that you're not understanding? I hope you're getting, right? So this one will get the price of this particular product, and this one will get that, will call this function, and this function, its task is just to calculate the what? The discount, and return the discount. So it will get the price minus discount, and it will get the net, and then after we return the net price. So let's go ahead and present this and display this. So to display it, you simply come here to our function, to our display, and where there is discount, let us duplicate it and put, after discount, put net price. Okay, and it's a function also. So put here net. So do the same also for the second object. This should start right there. Save. You see how I've done it? Let me explain it one more time. Net price is a method inside the product class that will calculate the price here minus, and it calls the function that can calculate the what? The discount. So this function, its task is just to calculate discount, and then get the net, and then return the net. And then here we are calling this net price to display the what? The price. I hope you're getting. Let me zoom out so I can see the whole thing. Can you see? So let's go ahead and display this. Okay, so save, come and refresh. Beautiful. Can you see? So this is the sugar, the price, the discount, and the net. So this plus this, you get the original price, and you can see it is dynamic. Here we have salt, it is 1,000, the discount is 200, and the price is 800. And we do it in a well systematic way. All of them, these are just two variables, but how many structural variables have we defined? We have defined around 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So if you're writing structured programming, you could have defined this thing 10 times, but by the use of object-oriented programming, we have just defined it how many times? two variables. This one is one, this is the second one. So if you're having what's the difference between echo and return? Okay, we are coming. I'll answer that. If you're having 1,000 products and you want to do this simple thing, you could do these 6 things times 1,000, which is really painful. So object-oriented programming is very key, and you have to understand it. So what is the difference between return and echo? Echo is used to display. Print can display, echo can display. In fact, echo and print do the same task, okay? Then return is used to return a value. So if I don't do like this, a return is inside the method. See, if I don't put this here inside this method, so what will be the point of this method? It will calculate and keep everything there. So even if you call it, let me save and call it, it will not display anything. Can you see? Do you have the net price? No. Why? We did not return. Return means that something that is inside the method is returning, just as it sounds. It returns. So if you don't return something from the method, then that method will just do the logic and will not give you back the results. But if you want the method to give the results, you see, you have to return the net price. Return the net price. So when you return, now where we called that thing, it will start using what you returned from there. For example, you see here under discount, we calculated and returned discount. So here, when we call discount method, what it does, it gets the value of discount that it was calculated here and substitute it here. Otherwise, if you don't return, then it means that that method is not doing anything. It's just calculating and it is not returning anything, as I've shown you here. If we remove this return part, if I comment it, come and refresh, can you see? Return is not, net price is empty. It is null. Why? It did not return shit. But if you want it to do stuff, then you have to return. But for echo is to display. I think that's taken home. I hope you understood it. So we are remaining with 6 minutes. Let us look into. We have been introduced to object-oriented programming. We have understood what is meant by class. We have understood what is meant by an object. We have understood what is meant by property. We have understood what is meant by what? By a method, as well as how to implement them. Then the last thing that we're going to look at today is going to be a constructor. So what is a constructor? A constructor is a function, or we can call it also a method. It's a function that is called when a method is initialized. I repeat, a constructor is a method that is automatically called when an object of a certain class is initialized. For example, when you create a product and it has a constructor will be automatically called at first. It will be called at very, very fast. Immediately when you do what? When you create a certain method of it. Let's see how we can implement that. So to do that, we're going to create another file. I'm going to call it constructor. Am I calling it constructor or contract? Constructor. So it's going to be number 3. Let's go constructor.php. So let's go ahead and create our PHP tag, and then we're going to create our first class. How are we going to call it? Class of student. Okay, person. Well, talk much of student. Person. So it is advised all your classes should start with capital letter. Person. Like that. So that is our simple class called person. So let's give it property. This person will have a name. So it's going to be public name, and you'll have what? Age, maybe public age. So let's go ahead and save and run this. So I'll simply come to our browser and run it. So you see, it is not displaying stuff, it's not displaying anything. So if you have, let's go ahead and create a first object. So to create an object, you can call this one p1 equals new person. So save, come and refresh. It is not doing anything, right? So what is a constructor? A constructor is a method that will automatically be called when we create a what? We create a certain, when you create an object of this class. I repeat, a constructor is a method inside a class that will be called automatically when we initiate an object of that particular class. So to do that, I'm going to elaborate it by creating a single constructor here. So to create a constructor in PHP, this is how you create it. You just simply put the double underscore and then write the word constructor, and then you define the constructor. It is nothing but a what? But a method. So let's go ahead and create a constructor. It's going to be function. You may also ask yourself, like, why do we need constructors even? But when you proceed, you'll find them really important. So you don't need to define public or what, just write function and then put 2 double underscores and then give this constructor, just write out constructor like this, okay? Open bracket and close, and then open curly bracket. You can as well just write this like this, just like this, underscore constructor. No, you have to begin with the function, right? Write function double underscores, see, underscore construct, and then like this. So this method will be called automatically when we create this object. How can we prove that? Let me first remove this object, come and refresh, nothing displays. Let me put back the object, come and refresh, nothing displays. So as we discussed, that this constructor, it will be called even before we call it, right? It will be called before we call it. So how shall we do that? So let us elaborate that by just simply putting here an echo. Let us echo something and say, hey, I am called automatically. So you see, let us run this function. Let us make sure that we put the semicolon. Let us go ahead and run this file. You see, we have not called this constructor, but we just created our first object. So when you come and refresh, can you see? This guy has called himself. So if you remove this object, creating it, come and refresh, nothing will be there. But when you create our first object of a person, this guy calls himself automatically. So that's what you call a default constructor. It will call itself automatically. So why do we need constructors? Constructors are really important. Very, very important as we proceed. Right now, you may not see their sense. Why? Because they help us to initialize things, to make sure that things are together, things are okay before we start operating. So if a constructor refuses something, then it means that our time is over. Yeah, our time is up. Yeah. So let us do what? Let us conclude this constructor thing in just 2 minutes or 3 minutes. So I was saying that why do we need constructors? We need constructors because they help us to make sure that things are okay before we do what? Before we proceed. Assume that you've created a bank, a software. So when someone wants to initialize a transaction, you can put a transaction class, you put their constructor, you make sure, so in that constructor, you make sure that someone has entered the correct ID or a correct account number and the correct password, and then you can allow them to proceed. But how can you make sure that before anything happens, this should first make sure, for example, you're creating an account, before you create an account, you should make sure that you enter the correct password and you create a username. Otherwise, nothing should go on. So to make sure that that will happen, you put that thing in a default constructor. So if someone entered the wrong PIN and you want to initialize a certain transaction, you will not allow this transaction to be created. So all those things, you can put them inside the constructor, because it is created automatically. However, you can do the same thing using a function. But remember, you're a human being. You can forget to call that function to check. But a constructor cannot forget. It will be called automatically even before we call it. For example, I can go ahead and print and display echo maybe, and say name of this person, and I just put P1, right? And then say name. So save, and let's come and put here BR. And come and put age of this person, div age, come and refresh. Nothing will display. Let me put here some BR also. Let me remove this constructor. We have known it is being called there. It is being called automatically. So even if I comment it, come and refresh, can you see? Name is nothing and age is nothing. But have you ever, let me ask you something. Have you ever saved a phone number and forget to put there a name? What happens? It means you find the phone number while something has been written there, no name. Why? Who did that? A constructor is the one that does that. So it is calls and automatically puts there no name. So in case you forget, this name will not be null, but it will have something that says no name. And how to do that? You do that in constructor. So here you see we are not seeing anything because we have not initialized the name of P1. So if you want to do that, we can simply say, hey, if someone does not initialize the name, let us just say this and give this name no name. So if someone forgets to initialize the name will no name. And if someone forgets to initialize age, the age should be 0. Save. Come and refresh. Can you see? No name, age is 0. And who did this work for us? It's constructor. It's automatically called. So this one will be called first immediately before you do anything. So now if you want now to initialize names, then you can go ahead and initialize the name. So to show that it's called before an object is initialized, so this name that you're initializing here is going to override this word no name. So I can say Joan Doe. And then you can give also P1 age, maybe 32. Save. Come and refresh. Beautiful. So you can see these variables have replaced these ones in the constructor. But this constructor help us to do what? To create for us. They helped to create for us a placeholder. And we can do a lot of logic inside this constructor once we know that a constructor is called before an object is created, or when we just initialize the word, when we just create an instance of of an object. A constructor is automatically called. Once you have that in your brain, then you can think creatively. You can even think better than me. How can I make better use of a constructor? You can even think better than me. That's the point here. Because we just give you these tools, the knowledge, then your task is to be creative and think how you can use this knowledge, the better. So the point is, constructor will be called automatically. Otherwise, if you don't have a constructor, then these things will be null. So in the next class, we'll look at, this is called default constructor. We'll look at argumented constructor, and we'll also proceed now to, we'll proceed to abstract classes, we'll proceed to interfaces, and also inheritance. And also, if time allows, we'll also proceed to do what? To coordinator. Otherwise, that will be all for today's class. And in case there is no question, let me stop recording.